Ever get that feeling?
No.
Like you're at the grocery store and every time you blink, the prices have jumped up again.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
Well, one of the things that might be driving those prices up is something you might not expect. Tariffs.
Tariffs.
Yeah, those taxes on imported goods, they can actually have a pretty big impact on your wallet and on the whole economy too.
Huh. I guess that makes sense.
We've actually gotten a lot of questions from you all about tariffs.
Oh, yeah.
And we thought we'd do a deep dive into how those global trade moves, with tariffs and stuff, how they affect us right here in the U.S.
It's actually pretty interesting how something that sounds as boring as like international trade policy
Yeah,
can have like a huge domino effect on our everyday lives.
totally. I think we've all heard the term trade war thrown around.
Oh, yeah.
But what does that actually mean?
Well, imagine like a playground, right?
Yeah.
And one kid throws sand at another kid.
Yeah.
And then obviously the other kid throws sand back.
Right.
And then before you know it, everyone's throwing sand. That's kind of like a trade war. One country will put tariffs on goods from another country, to protect their own industries.
Right.
And then the other country retaliates with their own tariffs, and things can spiral out of control pretty fast.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
So one country is trying to protect its own industries. But I was looking at some research that we have.
Yeah.
And it says that sometimes the prices of goods that aren't even directly hit by those tariffs, those can go up too.
Oh, yeah.
How does that happen?
Well, let's say there's a tariff on imported steel,
Okay.
right? That's going to make imported steel more expensive.
Right.
And then domestic steel producers, they're suddenly facing less competition.
Ah, okay.
They've got more power, basically,
That's right.
to raise their prices,
Okay.
even if their own production costs haven't changed at all.
Wow.
And it doesn't just happen with steel either. This can happen with other goods too. Like we've seen price increases in things like electronics and clothing, after tariffs were placed on those imports.
So it's not just, you slap a tariff on a thing and that thing gets more expensive. It kind of has these ripple effects on other things in the market too.
Exactly, yeah.
But, in our research, we also saw that some businesses can actually benefit from tariffs.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Can you explain that?
Yeah, so certain domestic industries, they can get this sort of short-term advantage when tariffs make it harder for imported goods to compete, right?
Okay.
Like, think about those steel producers again.
Yeah.
Suddenly, there's more demand for their products because the stuff from overseas just got way more expensive.
Right.
So, yeah, they definitely benefit in that kind of situation.
So there are winners in this trade war.
I don't know if I call them winners exactly. It's more complicated than that, right?
Yeah.
Because even though some industries might get a temporary boost, when you look at the bigger picture, the impact of tariffs tends to be negative for the economy in the long run. And it's really important to think about who pays the price for all of this, because a lot of times the folks that are hit hardest by tariffs are low and middle income households.
Because they're spending a larger percentage of their income on, like essential things.
Exactly. When the price of food, clothes, gas,
Yeah.
all of that goes up, it hits those families the hardest. And small businesses often struggle too because they can't really, they don't have the resources to absorb those extra costs.
Yeah.
Or pass them along.
Right. So tariffs can start these trade wars. They disrupt that nice flow of goods back and forth and prices go up. But we also saw this idea in our research that the U.S. economy is large and diverse enough that maybe it can handle a trade war better than other countries can. Is there any truth to that?
Well, I mean, it's true that the U.S. economy is pretty resilient. We have a lot going for us. But I think it's dangerous to be overconfident about that. If a trade war drags on too long, it can really start to hurt. Economic growth can slow down.
Right.
Businesses might not want to invest anymore, and people can lose their jobs.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And imagine if major trading partners like China or the European Union, if they start retaliating with their own tariffs, then the risk of a recession, it just goes way up.
Okay, so maybe not quite walking a tightrope, but definitely something that you need to be very careful about.
Yeah.
And speaking of needing to be careful, there's a connection between tariffs and something that I think we're all familiar with these days, which is inflation.
Yeah.
Can you break down how those two things are connected?
Well, think about it like this. When you have tariffs, imported goods get more expensive, right?
Right.
And then a lot of times businesses, they pass those higher costs on to consumers. Yeah. So then prices go up for all kinds of things, and then it just becomes this vicious cycle, where everything keeps getting more expensive and it's hard to stop.
That's that feeling of like, ugh, everything costs more now.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, that's a very real feeling. And tariffs are a part of that.
Yep.
Okay. So what about the Federal Reserve?
Yeah.
They're kind of in charge of steering the economy, right?
Right.
What is their role when tariffs start messing with inflation?
Well, honestly, they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place when that happens.
Oh, yeah.
Because one option is to raise interest rates.
Okay.
And that can, sometimes help to slow down the economy a bit and bring inflation under control.
Right.
But raising interest rates can also slow economic growth too much,
Well, okay.
And that can cause job losses. So it's a real balancing act for them.
So there's not really an easy answer.
Yeah, exactly.
There's one more term that I wanted to ask you about.
Mm-hmm.
It popped up in our research, and I don't know that I've ever totally understood what it means.
Uh-oh.
It's stagflation.
Oh, yeah.
Can you kind of explain that for me?
Yeah. Stagflation is basically when you get the worst of both worlds.
Oh.
It's when prices are going up, but the economy is slowing down.
One.
And jobs are harder to find, so it's like a double whammy.
Oof. So the Fed has to look at all these different things. They've got to look at prices, they've got to look at economic activity, and they have to think about stagflation and try to figure out what to do.
Well, exactly.
That's a tough job.
Yeah, it is. And sometimes they might decide that fighting inflation is the most important thing, even if it means that the economy slows down a bit.
Okay.
And other times they might decide that it's more important to keep the economy growing, even if that means that prices go up a little more.
So it's all about finding the right balance.
And
So the next time you're at the store and you see that prices have gone up, or you hear on the news about trade disputes and tariffs and all that stuff, remember, this is not just some boring, abstract economic thing that doesn't affect you, right?
True.
This actually can affect your wallet,
Yeah.
and it can affect the whole economy.
Mm.
So something to think about. Could tariffs ever actually be a good thing? Like if they're used in the right way,
Yeah,
it's something to ponder.
definitely.
I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you later.
Bye.
Bye.